This episode of the Media Leader podcast was edited by our production partner, Trisonic. And if you're looking for podcast production support, we highly recommend them. Find them at trisonic.co.uk.
All of the UK is getting up a lot earlier than they used to. So we've kind of coined this phrase, 5 to 9 is the new 9 to 5, by which I mean 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is a time when people do much more with the day than they ever used to.
Welcome to a special episode of the Media Leader podcast, produced in partnership with The Guardian. Each year, The Guardian's advertising team delivers a research project cheekily called Shift Happens. Blending survey data with first-party data, the study aims to unpack longer-term cultural trends in Britain that may well be of interest to savvy marketers. To speak about the report with me today, I am delighted to welcome back into the show The Guardian's Chief Advertising Officer, Imogen Fox. Imogen, it's good to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Jack.
You were last on the podcast in March, I believe. How's the rest of your year been?
Oh, it's been a bit of a blur. I can't really remember, but I think that probably means it's been okay.
Okay. Well, in November, you released the annual Shift Happens report. If you had to summarize the whole of the research in one takeaway, which is, I'm sure, a challenge, what would that one takeaway be?
I think it would be that the rhythm of our week has massively and fundamentally changed in the last 5 years. That's it, I think. What we noticed, the major thing we noticed is that people are doing this thing called time maxing, which is they are maximising every moment of their days in slightly different ways. And that underpins all of the things that we found in the research. One
of the research questions that you led with, certainly in an article on the Media Leader, was WTF happened to Fridays? And to speak to sort of the changes in how we're spending our time, maybe a Friday has become a really different day. What has happened to Fridays generally? And also, have you felt that within the media industry itself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the reason that we came up with that is that one day we were in the office on a Friday, just a few of us, you can imagine, a hardcore posse. And we just literally said, you know, like, am I allowed to swear on the podcast? Anyway.
You are allowed to swear on the podcast.
So we're just like, what the fuck's happened? You know? So then we started to talk about it, and then we started to talk about how the rhythm of our weeks has changed. So that is the sort of question that we led on, because it's something that everybody can really very quickly relate to. And the findings are really interesting, that when we started to investigate like what has happened to Fridays, like the spoiler is it's our happiest day of the week now, because we're using it in really different ways. And we're putting a lot of washing on. That kind of thing.
That makes me happy.
Exactly, makes me so happy. But the reasons, I mean, there's lots of backup data as well behind that. And we actually had some data from Virgin Media about broadband usage on Fridays. And particularly over the summer, it turns out that everybody is logging off sooner. Perhaps it's no surprise, but you can really see the home broadband usage dip. Dips even more if you're in London. So
is the implication there that people are basically logging off work early on Fridays without telling their boss?
Probably. I don't know. But I do know that the usage in pub gardens of broadband goes up at that time. Right. So you can make your own conclusions.
Work from home, work from the pub.
Exactly.
As long as the work is getting done.
Just get it done. And so you asked, didn't you, about how that's changed in media?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think when I first started in advertising, people used to talk about Media Thursdays as being a thing where everyone went out and went mad. And obviously the rhythm of this week still allows that to happen, but it means that you're not having a kind of shared hangover moment on Friday morning. So I've definitely seen that. And probably as the person who signs off on expenses, I've noticed that it's more breakfasts and exercise classes that we do with our clients now rather than big nights out.
That sounds healthier.
It's actually much healthier. Yeah. I think that's something else we found actually, that in the report we found that people are like, all of the UK is getting up a lot earlier than they used to. So we've kind of coined this phrase, 5 to 9 is the new 9 to 5, by which I mean 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is a time when people do much more with the day than they ever used to. And I can't remember the stat. Don't ask me for stats. But this is very high. It's over 70% of people are now getting up before 7 a.m.
Interesting. I guess, okay, I am not one of those people, so I really can't speak to that anecdotally at all.
You're missing out.
Apparently I'm missing out on a huge amount of, it sounds like, working out or sort of taking some me time. Is that the idea?
Possibly, or, you know, listening to a podcast,
Oh, yeah.
getting some,
Well, we all
I don't
hope.
know, getting some emails done. Who knows?
I'm keen to dig into more of the specific findings in a moment, but first I want to ask sort of broadly, because we receive a lot of trends reports at the Media Leader from a variety of companies or agencies, and I'm curious how you sort of think this research is distinct from those, and maybe how much you think marketers should place sort of confidence or start building their strategies around any individual trend or long-term trend.
There's quite a lot in that. So first of all, I would say you're asking, is our research slop? To which the answer is, of course it's not. No, seriously. Why this research is different from The Guardian is because fundamentally it's based on the journalism that we produce every day. It really genuinely is. And as you know from being a journalist yourself, you can't just make up journalism. It would be nice if you could, but you can't. And even if you are a lifestyle journalist, which is what this research is based on, and in fact how I started my career at The Guardian, so I know, you don't just make stuff up. It's usually based on, like, I was a fashion writer, so if we were writing about a trend, it would have to be based on what you've seen on the catwalks, what the shopping data is saying from the high street, perhaps what people are wearing on a TV show that's like in the ether, and it's how all of that comes together that you kind of, so that's journalistic instinct that produces those pieces that are then rooted in data and facts. That has then given us a massive kind of well of first-party data that the research is based on. And that's not just about the things in the pieces. It's about how they find them, or when they read them, or how long they read them for. So or watch them, in fact, or listen to them. So all of that is kind of, the journalism is the basis for the research, and that does make it genuinely different. And then on top of that, obviously, we have methodology. We work with a research company called Magenta to do a big nationwide study to see how that played out against a nationally representative group of people. So not just Guardian readers. So we've got that as well. And then beyond that, we also had lots of qualitative research with surveys done, vox pops on the streets in Manchester, where obviously all truth is told.
You mentioned so that there is a baseline of first-party data.
Yeah.
The Guardian's audience, I think, probably has a perception within the media industry of it. I'm curious, sort of, what, from a lifestyle perspective, what's distinct about Guardian readers from maybe the rest of the population?
I think I would say that they skew to being more open-minded about things, willing to try new things, which is obviously excellent if you're a brand, because you can, if you're a brand, you want to be with people who are willing to try new things throughout their day. So that's really useful. And also, you know, as we're such a large quality news brand, that within our readership, our audience has lots of characteristics that are really interesting to advertisers. So younger, like, you know, more diverse, willing to spend money on trying new things. So it's a really useful audience if you're a brand, I would have thought.
So, okay, we talked about two of the main takeaways from the research, sort of the rhythm of the week changing. That includes also waking up earlier and maybe being a little bit more productive, or potentially at that hour. What were some of the other key takeaways from the report? How are people changing their lifestyle habits?
We found that people are doing this thing called joy slicing, which is like kind of finding moments of joy throughout their day, even within work. So the office is actually back in terms of when we looked at, so this research looks at different generations as well. So it does Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers. And it found that actually amongst the younger generations, there was a return to the office because people were finding meaningful friendships and connections at the office that they enjoyed, and that had kind of probably been missing a little bit during that pandemic phase. So that's quite interesting, the fact that people are enjoying coming to the office and spending time with colleagues. I think that's quite a fascinating change. I also think one thing that I found particularly interesting is this idea of, because you've cleared out your washing on Friday, sorry, not to boil it all down to laundry, but it is important. On Saturdays and Sundays, you're really like maximising the good things in life. So on Saturdays, people are kind of trying new things, trying new hobbies. Like we have loads of series in The Guardian that kind of speak to that. And that, again, is something that brands can meaningfully help people out with. If you make a change, it's really exciting to kind of think that, if I just start something, I can change the way I live. I think that's really uplifting.
Min-maxing the weekend a little bit.
Exactly. You've read it.
Yeah. Does that include waking up earlier on the weekends or sort of...
So I don't have the data. I don't have the data on what time people exactly wake up on Saturdays, Jack. I wish I did.
I wish you did as well. I would want to know, because I get up way too early on Saturdays and it always makes me angry, and so I always start the weekend off in a bad mood.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But in terms of the work-life balance thing, I think that's a really interesting point, especially for people in this industry, because a lot of the people that I'll speak with on this podcast are a little bit more senior. They're probably really happy. They've got young kids. They're happy with the flexibility of working from home post-pandemic, whereas some of these more people more close to my age and younger are sort of wanting to get into the office more, which is the opposite of what I think we were hearing a couple of years ago, where it felt like the younger people were like, no, I want maximum flexibility. Does that change how businesses look to operate in terms of forcing people back in or giving more flexibility to different types of workers, do you think?
I think we're in a sort of post-forcing people back into the office era at the moment. I think it's kind of, there's been a natural return to the good stuff in the office, with perhaps the more unhealthy stuff of the office kind of left behind. So I think we're in a more balanced place with it. We've certainly found that those generations that are in the office are happier perhaps than they were 3 years ago when we first started this research. I also think they're a bit healthier. So there's less of the kind of like real hedonism that's going on. Interestingly, we found a few things actually that are really completely mind-blowing. You'll have heard of Cinderella raving, I'm sure.
I have not heard of that. What is that?
So Cinderella raving is people who do daytime raving so that it can be tucked up in bed by 9 p.m.
Okay, I'm not cool enough to know about that. Yeah, go on.
This is the kind of that generation are
we
really
call that day
into it.
partying in
You
the
call
US.
that day partying.
Or darting.
Really?
Do you not say that in this country?
I'm too old for any darting. No.
Okay.
So people are doing more different ways of like enjoying themselves after work. There's a whole thing about people playing chess with cocktails, which again is like a kind of, and that's not just in like hipster places in London. We ran a piece on the Guardian where people were actually getting up to that in Birmingham of all places. So
right. Okay.
It's nationwide. And I think people are drinking less as well. In that, within that, we also ran a piece in The Guardian with the CEO of Soho House. And he was talking about how once upon a time in Soho House, it was all boozy lunches. And now it's very much a kind of culture of, people talking about what exercise they've been up to, that they have this drink. Their most popular drink is a kind of mini sip of martini. So it's kind of like, the way we sort of relax is changing as well. He also talks about people in Soho House banging on about being on IV drips as well, which is definitely...
Okay. Wow, talk about min-maxing your fun.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, people have a lot more fun than I do. Socialization, I think, is a really interesting topic more generally. I think a lot is written about in the pages of The Guardian and elsewhere about sort of the loneliness epidemic, about, especially young people maybe finding it hard to meet people if they aren't going into the office, if they have a remote job, or if they're spending a lot of time online. Part of the report also found that people are talking with chatbots more, that this is an actual behavior that is sort of...
I'm being extremely honest with ChatGPT. Lots of people were saying that, in fact, it's their best friend because they can be really honest and open and you get a non-judgmental response.
Right. Okay. So that strikes me as a little bit concerning. It's an interesting dichotomy, I suppose, between people that are finding ways to socialize, especially as young people, and maybe doing that through work more, and other people that maybe aren't talking to other humans as much as they
used to. Or doing both, maybe. Doing both.
Mm. How would you sort of situate in terms of where you think we're moving with, especially the sort of younger generations? Is it a mix of both? Should we be concerned about people that are speaking more with chatbots than going out and, I guess, having a little boozy chess match or something?
Boozy chess match. I don't know but I would imagine that people are better at doing, but both things can be true at the same time. So I think that's probably where we'll go with it. Everything you read on, obviously on AI, as much discussed, may not be true. So it would be worrying if you were getting all your advice from a chatbot and not your best friend in the chess club as well. So hopefully it's going to be both.
Gotcha. I'm curious from a marketer standpoint. You mentioned there's lots of potential opportunities for them to learn from this research and take something away. From both a creative and a media strategy standpoint, what do you think are the opportunities here in understanding how people's behaviors are changing?
I think if you're a brand, you really want to get under the skin of your customers so you can understand them more and be with them throughout their day, whatever that is. So you can be there for them to help them, offer them solutions. So I think understanding how people live is fundamentally important if you're going to do that. And this report is brilliant at doing that because it doesn't talk about trends. It talks about the cultural shifts underneath that have made these trends possible. So it's not really like short-termism. So it's not like this trend's massive, you must jump on it. I mean, that's fun if you're a brand that does really well on social media and you can make that happen. EasyJet do it really well. I'm sorry, it's Ryanair, isn't it? Anyway, double shout out to the cheaper airlines there. But yeah, and so I think if you're a marketer and you're looking for the underlying changes to behavior that can drive how you want to show up as a brand, then it's really, really important. And I think fundamentally what the report shows is that things that are important to people don't change, like, friendships, connection, love, work, challenges, they remain the same, but it's the approaches to them that change that we should be aware of if you want to talk to people that are, going to buy your products. And actually, not to be sort of like too serious about it, but brands can really help people do that. If you want to change your life, and even if it's as simple as starting a new exercise, then technology and exercise equipment and clothing can help you do that. So it's a big opportunity for brands. And I hope that just being really self-serving for a moment, I hope that the brands realise that The Guardian does lifestyle journalism really brilliantly. That, obviously we're known for our news, which we are fantastic at, but we're also known for their softer things as well. So I hope that brands realise that we can help them out with that. I hope that planners can look at this and go, I'll have that, I'll nick that, I'll use that in my strategy and insight, and obviously hopefully we can work together on something.
You mentioned a couple different types of verticals there. We talked about how exercise is maybe on the up and up, so if I'm a gym brand, that sounds like that could be really good for me. Equally, if people are going out and partying less, or apparently doing some dartying, but if they're partying less on the weekends,
can you spell that for me, Jack?
It's just party with a D.
Okay, it's the R that I can't get my head around. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I got an accent. If I'm a beverage company, I think that presents both challenges and opportunities. So, I mean, not to say that you should advise you're not necessarily working at one of their agencies, but what might some of those types of brands in particular be looking at the moment, given some big changes in consumer behavior?
I think brands would always be looking at places that they can find that are new, that people aren't there yet, or places they think they can authentically play in. You mentioned booze brands. Well, we've seen the rise of low alcohol and no alcoholic brands over the years. If you are a brand that is just all about alcohol, then maybe you're going to try and advertise during the day. So day partiers.
Changes in consumer behavior are kind of consistent, kind of a moving target. I'm curious how this report lines up with both prior reports from earlier years and maybe what's changed over time, and equally how you expect things to change in the future if you had something of a crystal ball.
We don't have a crystal ball, sadly. But you can kind of think that it is like, obviously shift is wordplay, but it does feel like shifts when things happen like that. And it's only with hindsight and you look back and you kind of think, oh yeah, we were over here and now we're here. So I think with the difference that we found in the report is people are actually getting happier, which is nice. And I think that the things that were starting to happen that were very much a kind of post-pandemic response have now become solidified in our lives and are now just things that are true. I think there's an old saying as well, isn't there, about something like a decade only gets going when you're about halfway through. And we are actually now halfway through. So we can probably start to define how this decade is looking, I would say. And in terms of going forwards, I would say there won't be dramatic shifts, but the change, but there will be kind of like slow movement towards these things. Obviously, big changes in the future, like AI, means that life will change again, but rather than it being a kind of shock and awe, this new thing's coming, it will be how it gets embedded into people's lives that we kind of then begin to look at.
How would you define the 2020s if we're 5 years in and we can start?
Look, that's so unfair because I've literally just said it now. I'm going to take a moment and think about that for you, Jack, and get back to you. I'll let you know in 26.
Lots of change. I would, I could take a stab at it, which would be huge amounts of political and economic uncertainty, and people maybe, I want to say, putting their life on pause, but prioritizing slightly different things. So that's fair.
That's really fair. That's really fair. I think another way of looking at the way people use time is to sort of say that you can control what you can control. And when the world is crazy, as we can see it at the moment, and being so divided, then being able to control what you can, your day, your friends, your little orbit, it becomes more important. So I'd agree with you.
And your consumption habits as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So taking the research into account and widening us back out a little bit, I'm curious, you mentioned that so much of sort of these lifestyle trends are captured by The Guardian's journalism. How does the paper want to take the conversation forward with its own journalism? What are some of the key issues that the paper's looking at for 2026?
Well, I would probably say I'm not going to call it the paper. I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the
journalist
Guardian.
In me. Yeah.
I'm going to call it the Guardian. But it's. I say that like not just to be pedantic, but also because I think if I think about our future, we are on the edge of a transformation project at the Guardian, multi-million-pound transformation project that will see us become more visual, more experimental, and more global. And I think that does play into what we'll be doing and reporting on next year, because it's the World Cup next year. As you know, it is in America next year. Yeah. And as you also know, we have an office based there that is kind of growing in stature all the time. And so we're going to cover, in terms of non-hard news, we're going to cover the World Cup in all its glory. We are already discussing it quite heavily. You know, I'm learning to call it soccer, and my US colleagues are learning to call it football, and no one's quite sure what we're talking about anymore. But the World Cup will be a huge focus for The Guardian. And as you know, we'll cover it from what's on the pitch, what's off the pitch, what the fans are doing, what the politics behind it are. We will really take a full approach to that, the whole picture. As you know, that's our new position in the US. And so we're really looking forward to doing that. I think another thing that we'll be focusing on is, so this year, The Guardian does a charity Christmas appeal every year, and 2025's Christmas appeal will be about, in response to the kind of rise of extremism and all of the far right kind of marches and stuff that's been going on. We are going to, the focus of the charity appeal is on those communities and organisations that try and bring communities together and kind of get over that divide. And I think in terms of our sort of more serious news, we'll be pushing that further into 26 and looking at those communities, why it happens, how it happens, and also very much about the solutions to it and the kind of hope of organisations that empower people to come together and close that divide down. So that's a couple of priorities that I think we'll be looking at. And no doubt some silly trends and some TV shows as well.
Well, it's all interconnected, centering people essentially, right? People coming together from groups. It seems like from a lifestyle perspective, people want to be coming together and finding friends,
that's right,
colleagues. And that can be difficult when everyone's talking about politics all the time, I imagine. I know, personally, from personal experience.
You are somebody that likes to talk about politics in your spare time. I know.
Do. And so is it football or soccer? In the copy of The Guardian US, I imagine it's soccer?
You'd be correct, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there.
I really had to think about that then. I'm really trying to become more global in my approach to the World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup, not the UK Cup. Something else that I think really interesting about World Cup coverage and maybe moving into AV a little bit more, as you mentioned that you're going to do, is that you can really speak perhaps to the World Cup and to soccer or football beyond the 90 minutes that people are paying attention to the matches. And I'm curious how the Guardian's wanting to do that a little bit more, I guess around the World Cup, but around other things just as well.
The World Cup's a really good example of that, actually, I think, because the way we try and cover it for our audience is that we're with them throughout the day with it. So there might be like a live blog online during the actual matches, but then there will be like lots of coverage about the kind of and comment and analysis about the kind of fundamental concerns and maybe club drama, maybe funding, maybe geopolitical drama, I don't know, stuff like that. So we try and stay with people throughout the day, and we'll do that as you say, we'll do that in AV, we'll do it in online, we'll do it in print as well still. So I think that that's something that we can really bring to our audience. And again, it is it's a great opportunity for brands, because if you're with somebody throughout their day, then you can definitely kind of find the moments that they're going to be receptive to your message. And in fact, we've done that in the research. You'll see a very handy section called What to Buy, which is just kind of letting you know that, if you want to be there for the early birds, then, we have morning packages that you can buy. And we really hope that that's a sort of interesting new way of buying The Guardian that our kind of customers and partners will look at. So hopefully they'll come and talk to us about that.
Very nice. Last question then. You were the fashion editor. What should I buy clothing-wise to up my fashion game? Or do I have an okay fashion game?
Seems like a really badly disguised call for a compliment, and I'm going to give you one because you were wearing a navy blue jumper today, Jack, and so am I, and 2 is almost a trend, so I'm going to say you are very good on the clothing front.
Okay, I'm very happy now. Imogen, it's been a total pleasure. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you for listening to the Media Leader podcast. Our executive producer is me, Jack Benjamin. Special thanks to our production partner, Trisonic. You can find all our episodes on the podcast platform of your choice or on our website at uk.themedialeader.com. But do please remember to subscribe to be notified of our next episode. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at The Media Leader to receive daily coverage of all the biggest news stories in media and advertising. From all of us at The Media Leader, I'm Jack Benjamin. See you next time.